and welcome, welcome, welcome. That is a very pregnant pause to the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. Hi. How are y'all doing? Hopefully well. I am, of course, your host, Marcus Nez. Yada, yada, yada. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, this is a whole new intro. I'm trying to figure out how to structure it. But if you have questions you would like to have me answer on the podcast, video game related specifically, feel free to leave a comment and I will answer them on the following episode. But today I'll be talking about Slime 3K Rise Against Despot, the Coma 2B, Catacomb, Bloomtown, a different story. Do I really need to say the colon? Maybe not. Garten of Banban 6, Monarchy, 112 Operator and Ship Graveyard Simulator 2. We're just going to get right to it because news happened, I think. I don't remember what happened since the last episode. So we're just going to get into it because it's been a hell of a week. I'm not going to get into it, but you know, if you're in the States, something happened yesterday. The Slime 3K Rise Against Despot. This is a survivors like, so if you played Vampire Survivors or any game of that nature, an auto shooter, is that what we call those? An auto twin stick shooter. It's of that vein where you're going around, enemies are swarming at you from all angles, from all sides, and you're just meant to survive as long as possible. And in this one, you have the ability to aim where you are firing. You're always auto firing. You don't have control over when you fire, but you do have the ability, if you want, to aim where you are firing. You can turn on auto aiming if you want, and I prefer it that way. In these types of games, they seem designed around you not having to focus on that particular input and more so focus on maneuvering the space and avoiding enemies while letting the character do all of the other work for you. So whenever there is a game of this nature and it has the ability to aim, I always opt to auto aiming, and I do that here as well. One of the things that's a little different here is your particular character, this giant slime, is fairly large, so you take up quite a decent amount of screen real estate, which also means you are a bigger target for enemies. So avoiding taking damage is a bit harder. That said, it's an alright one of these. I believe this is an established franchise world, because I believe I've played something in this world that was more of a slime management thing or something along those lines, where I had a bunch of test tubes or something and I was putting things here and there. I'm not entirely sure, but it is clear that the survivors-like genre, subgenre, whatever we want to call it at this point. Is it just the survivors-like? Is that what we're calling them? But it's clear that that is the current, or one of the big current fads. Maybe not a fad. I'm not sure what to make of it. I enjoy them because I like twin stick shooters and I like the minimalist approach to twin stick shooting and taking away some of the controls from you that make you focus on this aspect or that aspect. I think it is a very intelligent design, and it's especially great for something like mobile. Not that I play in mobile, but these games making their way to mobile having games like this on mobile. Makes sense. But with the more and more that come out, they need to have some kind of uniqueness, something that makes them stand out and says, hey, you should play me over the multitude of other options. It reminds me most of the deck building genre of Slay the Spire, and I'm not even sure if Slay the Spire was the first of its kind or just the first that really made a splash in the market. But post Slay the Spire, we've gotten so many games that are very similar that may either be thematically different or artistically different, or maybe they'll switch up the type of gameplay. So you have a dice builder, you have this thing or that thing. And with each new game that is of this nature, it saturates the marketplace even more so that you really, really have to stand out. And in the case of Slime 3K, it doesn't do anything particularly special. As you play through the various levels, so it's level base as opposed to being a handful of different worlds that just ask you to survive for 20 minutes, like in Vampire Survivors. You have levels of progressing difficulty, and I think there might be 20 or so. And by levels, I don't mean when you reach a certain time, it increases the level in a session. I mean, you have levels that are on the shorter side. And then when you get the boss, you either beat the boss or you die, and then you can move on. As you are playing through the game, you're earning XP, leveling up. And as you level up, you can, or you will unlock new cards that you can put into your deck. And that's the part of the game where it is more unique, in that you are playing this game while building a deck at the same time. And by building a deck, I mean the power-ups, weapons, so on, that will show up in your run is based off the deck you are playing. They have predetermined decks, I think, but you can also design your own. And this allows you to remove certain power-ups that you don't use, that you don't like, from your deck, and then they won't show up during your run. So if there is a weapon that does some type of area effect, but you don't like the fact that its cooldown is so long and you don't want to see it show up, you can remove it from your deck. If there are things you really, really like and you just want to focus, you can make a very refined deck that has a very limited thing. But then you are limited in your option, because when you are playing the game, certain things will show up. How you level up is that a shop will show up. You go to the shop and you will earn a bit of currency to spend there. And you could use that currency to either buy a power-up, a weapon, and so on, or upgrade the store so that better power-ups might show up, higher tier ones, because you start off with, I think, D, and then you get C, B, A, and S. Or you can spend a bit of currency to refresh the shop and get new items showing up. And you have a certain number of slots for your character that you can put weapons into. And if you buy multiple, you can stack them, combine them. So you get one and one of the same kind, and then you get a third one, smush them together, make a level 2. You get a level 2 one, and then you get 3 more level 1s, make another level 2, another 3 level 1s, make another level 2, and then those 2 will combine, and so on and so forth. And I believe level 3 is the max for power-ups. So that's that mechanic has been in other things, but the deck building thing is on the more unique side. I'm sure there are games that have done it, but nothing comes to mind. But outside of that, it's the same old, same old. Health shows up a lot. You move relatively slow, so there's also power up that'll show up every now and again that'll allow you to speed up. You get a little boost for a short period of time. Some stuff that'll do an area of attack thing and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Pretty standard stuff. It's a fine one of these, and it looks nice, but it doesn't quite have the same dopamine effect as other ones I've played. It doesn't, the desire, the fun of getting that new upgrade isn't quite there, and I'm not sure what it is. If it's just that the weapons, the character, it just, yeah. And because it is level based, you're not really seeing that much new from level to level. It's not like having a completely new area. Maybe some of the later levels are very different, but at least early on, it's very samey. So there's that as well. But it's okay, and it's $5. So one of the nice things about this genre too, over other ones, is that the barrier to entry is very low with most of them. I'm not sure if there's been a premium priced survivors like yet, but maybe one day. That is again Slime 3K Rise Against Despot. Next we have the Coma 2B Catacomb, which is a 2D side-scrolling survival horror game that continues the story of the last game, which is probably important that you play because this game is just story at the very start, to the point of losing me completely. I started skipping through dialogue maybe after 10 minutes, and even with doing that, it took me over 30 minutes to get to the actual survival horror. It was just exposition, bad writing. I was so out of it before the game even started because it just dumped all of this on me. And if it was more engaging, if I liked the writing, maybe. But once you get into the gameplay, it's hiding and running and a bit of rolling. And I'm sure there's probably more to it. Some adventuring type stuff. Go here to find this object so that you can move on to this. That's what I remember of the last game I played in this. But it's very story centric and 100% a game only for fans of the series. I know no one ever likes to hear this is for fans of the genre or fans of this or fans of that, but if you like the other Coma games, you'll probably enjoy this as well. If you didn't, then there's nothing here that's going to change your mind about the Coma series. And if you are someone who's not played any of the Coma games, you'd be better off starting with the first game. But I feel like the first game was very, very different. I can't remember if this is true or not, but I feel like the Coma, or the first Coma game, was way more pixely in terms of its visuals in that early, because there were quite a few 2D games, 2D survival horror games that were more pixely. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. I think Home might have been the name of one of them. And then the last one took this more anime aesthetic, which it's a good looking game. I will give it that. I think it looks good. The subtitles during some cinematics can be hard to read because they take stylistic approach to subtitles, and there were times where the screen would flash while the subtitles were still on, and they're just white subtitles on no type of background, so there were times where that made it hard to read, frustratingly. But then I got to the point where I didn't care about reading it, so that's the Coma. If you like the other Coma games, you'll probably like it. Everyone else, In Bloomtown, a different story. This is a RPG, turn-based RPG with a lot of small town vibes. It looks kind of like a Stardew Valley like, but it has so much of the vibe of a Persona game, which may or may not be appealing to some. You are a brother and sister who are spending time with your grandpa for, I forget the exact reason, but one of the things that stood out to me right at the start is when someone asks you where you're from, you say Chicago. And I'm like, I'm from Chicago too. And that made me happy. But it's a town full of a lot of different characters. And I don't just mean characters in the literal sense, but characters in the personality sense. And something is a bit awry there. You, in your dreams, have conversed with Lucifer. I believe it's just Lucifer. And there is this darkness, this blight over the town that you have to deal with. I quite enjoyed a fair amount of the game. I think the writing's pretty strong. The characters are enjoyable. There's a lot going on. A lot of different shops. There's fun to be had with the dialogue. You have various conversations you can have and choices you can make. There is a bit of a dice rolling mechanic to it where you're building up certain stats like charm, smarts, courage, something along those lines. And you will come into instances where in conversation, you can use your charm to try and get a little extra something. And it is based off a dice roll and how high your stats are. Or you might come across a swan in the park who is blocking a shortcut. And if your courage is high enough, you may be able to, with a good enough dice roll, scare them away, or they'll scare you away if you fail your dice roll. But there are a lot of characters and places to go, different shops, libraries, reading things, ways to improve your stats. Very Persona-like, where during the day you can hang out with a friend, you can do a bit of reading, and this will improve a stat or improve your connection with one of your party members so that they have new abilities. Next time you go into the dungeon, the first dungeon in the game takes place in the library. And it's solid. I played it for maybe 3-4 hours. And I really like the world and the characters. It's a beautiful game. The pixel art is very, very nice. The music is solid. And it even down to the music, it all feels very Persona inspired, because when you get into battle, you have this vocal song. It's not just instrumental. And it feels very... It's clear where its inspirations come from. The problem, though, and maybe it'll get more interesting over time, is that the actual combat is pretty shallow and unengaging. It is simple turn-based combat where it's not lane-based, but if you don't have a range attack, you can only attack the person in the front row. And it's very elemental based, and you can mix and combo certain things. So you set someone on fire and then hit them with an ice blast. That'll give you a nice little combo attack depending on what they're weak to. But one of the things that seemed weird to me is that when you analyze an enemy that you've never seen before, you already know its weaknesses. So you don't have to analyze, you don't have to spend a turn analyzing them. You don't have to, through experimentation, learn about an enemy. There's no taking the time to discover what an enemy's strengths and weaknesses are. It's already given to you. And that seems weird. In some ways, I can see people liking that they don't have to bother with that step, but then feels like, well, what's the point? But like with the Persona game as well, if you are in battle with an enemy and you down them, you can choose to do a party attack where everyone teams up and does extra damage. Or if you've not yet collected that particular enemy, creature, demon, you can subdue it if you have a successful roll and add it to your repertoire so that you can equip it. Each character can equip 2 demons. I think they're demons, but you can equip 2 of them, and they will, by equipping them, they will give you various new magic abilities, whether that be something like fire damage, heal, agility up, agility down, so on and so forth. And it will also improve your various, not buffs, but your strengths against certain elemental types and so on. The word that I'm looking for is escaping me. But that is an all right mechanic. You can in Lucifer's little home base thing, you can go and combine ones. You can sacrifice one demon to improve another and increase your stats level. It's a very well made game, and there are parts about it I like more. The thing about it is that I don't think any particular it's very good at what it's doing, but it hasn't done anything that really I enjoy playing it, no issues, but it doesn't have its hooks in me to the point of me wanting to play it when I'm not. When I'm playing it, I'm like, yeah, this is enjoyable. And the stuff I like about it most is the story and the characters and doing all that stuff outside of combat. I think if the combat was more interesting or engaging or unique in some way, I would be more invested in the game as a whole. But the fact that the combat is on the weaker side and the fact that the story pushed me towards the combat, I don't feel the stakes as much as I do in the Persona games, for instance. It's just like, oh, there's this shit happening in this town, but it's not affecting anyone in the real world, I don't think. It's just there's another side to the world. I'm not sure, but worth checking out. I can't remember if it's on Game Pass or not. But that is again Bloomtown, a different story. Garten of Banban 6 is the 6th game in this series, and it is 100%. You remember what I said about the Coma? This is 100% times 2 of being a game that, if you have not played any of the previous games, do not jump in here, because it, like in the other ones, I believe picks up right where the last one left off. And that's cool if you are into the series, but if you are a new person, then obviously this is not going to be for you. But I think I still hate the drone mechanic. I find controlling the drone to be just an annoying pain in the ass. They have some platforming stuff early on that doesn't feel that great. But despite my issues with a lot of this thing, it's a first-person survival horror game that I think is very much so trying to leech off of the love for something like Five Nights at Freddy's. But Five Nights, I don't know when Five Nights, if the first 4 games were all just you in a thing, closing doors and shit. But this is more of in the vein of the walking simulator, like. But despite my not liking a lot of it, I still, for whatever reason, really like the buddy you get. I don't know when you first become buddies with him, if it was in the last one. The sheriff dude, because I think it was the last one where you start off and you're in this interrogation room with the sheriff putty dude. Because all these monsters look like they're made out of putty. And I like his vibe. Just I want to hang out with this monster thing. And I would be very sad if whenever this series wraps up, you find out that they were the monster all along. They were the real big bad. Because I want to just hang out with this dude. Give me a life simulator, just hanging out with this dude after that. But the Garten of Banban 6 is a game that is only for the diehard fans of this whole series. You gotta start at the beginning or not at all. So that is what it is. Monarchy is castle building. It's a 2D side-scrolling fort building type of strategy game where during the day you're building up your defenses, going and exploring the surroundings, hunting, gathering gold, finding people to hire and bring back to your little village fort. And then during the night, you will, with each passing day, have to deal with increasingly more hostile and larger and more capable group of bandits. I think in later areas, you'll be fighting against other knights and so on, who are trying to siege your little kingdom, your little monarchy, and destroy your home base. And if they do that, you fail and you have to start all over. And at least in the first introductory area, the way you succeed is by defending over time, but then eventually finding a flag that you raise by giving gold to it. The way it all works is that you're going around building your base, creating walls, building up catapults, hiring archers and workers, and so on and so forth. Chopping down part of the forest to open up space so that you can increase the size of your fort and your defenses. Hunting to get gold, and so on and so forth. It's a fine game. It reminds me a lot of, I think it's the Kingdom series, but a much more mobile-ish, cute aesthetic. And I think in its minimalist approach to everything, because it doesn't tell you a whole lot, and control-wise it's pretty simple. In its minimalist approach, I think it fails to tell you some things that I would like to be told. Like when you upgrade this building or that building, when you upgrade your this totem thing that you can build in your base, you will be given two options based on the level of your home base, and you get to pick between one of them, and it'll give you some kind of permanent upgrade. But it's not always clear what one thing is and what the other thing is. And I would like some additional explanation and not have to learn through experimentation, but even through experimentation, you might not figure things out. I, after getting to level 3, had the choice between giving my inhabitants, my archers, increased armor, I believe, or something else. I went with the armor, but they didn't get armor. I don't know if I have to build an armory now or what happened, but that is something I find problematic with the game. And then also, one of the things I like least about it is that When you want to expand your base, you have to worry about the space between various things you're building. So you need to have enough space on both sides. When you are increasing the size of your base and you want to move things around, you can't destroy. If there is a way to do it, I don't know, and there's no control scheme in the option. You can't see any kind of options. You can't see any kind of menu that'll tell you how to do this or that, whether something exists or not. But I wish I could destroy certain things to get them out of the way so that I'd have more open space to build this or that. Because even if, for instance, a wall is destroyed by bandits, if it's not fully destroyed, during the day, your workers will rebuild it free of charge. If it's fully destroyed, you'll have to pay to get it rebuilt. But if it's fully destroyed, you can't just say, I want to actually use this space to build a catapult here and move the wall further up. Because that space where you said, I want a wall here, you're always going to have to put a wall there. Because that's now designated forever as wall space. And then with the other buildings, it doesn't seem like bandits care. Another instance where the minimalist approach and the lack of any kind of information hurts is that I think with the level 2, you unlock the ability to, or maybe it was with the level 3. So there's a dude with a mustache, and I built a little house for them. I don't know what that fucking did. I built this house. Bandits completely ignore it. They don't do anything to it. And once a day or multiple times a day, I can give it 2 coins to do I don't know what the fuck. Is it giving me a new inhabitant that I can then turn into a worker or an archer? I don't fucking know. It's not clear. So all I was doing was feeding this fucking building 2 coins every day for I don't know what. You also have a carriage that comes in every day, and you can give them a coin to either bring you a new person or a bunch of gold. It's way more valuable to get the gold because for 1 gold coin, he'll bring 8 to 10 coins, which is quite a lot. And you can very easily go out during the day and just find people in tents and hire them with 1 coin. So, it's a fine enough time waster, but it's okay. It's okay. Then that was again Monarchy. Then we have 112 Operator, which is a 911 operator game, simulator game. I think the previous game was just called 911 Operator. This, you pick a particular country you want to go in, and then you're just taking on orders where you'll see something pop up, an incident, and it'll require either a fire truck, an ambulance, or a police car. You send them, they do their job, maybe they'll need additional help, and during the day while you're managing all this, you'll get incoming calls as well that could be medical related, some kind of police related. They could be fake calls, prank calls, and you have to, through conversing with the person, get the information you need to find out the validity of the call and what you need to do if it's a real call to help them out. And it's okay. The problem is that it's just real finicky with the gamepad. On PC, I think it would probably be a much more enjoyable experience where you have better control, but you have an on-screen cursor that you toggle between, a little thing that you move to select your various units to send them on objectives. Switching between these can be finicky, but then just navigating the whole menu can be more tedious than I would like, and it does make the whole process a little less enjoyable. but it's okay if you can get past that. It's not as tedious and cumbersome as other games I've played of this nature. And I remember playing the 911 operator. This feels a bit more optimized than that. I think where the game stands out most is in the calls, because when you are just finding it, you just get an incident thing on the screen, and then you just select, oh, that one needs an ambulance. Okay, I'm gonna select my closest ambulance, and then click on that incident and send them there. Okay, big deal, whoop-de-doo. Not that interesting. But when you get a call, you engage with the person, and it's all voiced, and the conversation will diverge in various ways depending on how you respond to them. If you are taking too much time asking them things that aren't important, there are people who are suicidal who you have to talk down and engage with and make sure you don't push them in one way or another. And if you do, then you'll potentially hear a gunshot and the call will end. And that's a powerful-ish moment that is not going to be enjoyable for some. There are instances where there might be a dangerous situation and you're talking to the person on the other line and they want to do something, and it might be bad if they do that, and you have to try and talk them out of it. And if you fail to do that, maybe they cause an explosion that sets a building on fire, and a lot of people are in harm because this person felt like they were a hero and you couldn't talk them out of it. So I think, and in some cases, it's just you get a weirdo calling the cops. And I think that's where the game excels. It's in those calls. The rest of the game, and I don't know if there are new things that happen as you play more and more and more, but that feels like the basic gameplay loop of getting these various incidents where you just send a unit that is best for that thing, and then you'll also get calls every now and again. And the calls are the most engaging and interesting part. So, yeah, that's 112 Operator. Then last we have Ship Graveyard Simulator 2. This is in the same vein as something like a Power Wash Simulator or House Renovator, so on and so forth. But in this, you get yourself a nice ship and then you destroy the shit out of it. So first you're picking up any kind of loose crap that's in there, junk and whatnot, throwing it into your truck, and then you are dismantling the ship, first breaking things down with your hammer, then using a saw to bust things up, having a torch to mess with the foundation, and that is seemingly all you're doing is getting these various ships and collecting scrap from them. When you collect enough scrap, you will finish the job, claim it, and then you'll take it over to the scrapyard and you can sort it. You can auto sort it for a slight loss of, I think, 10% of what you could do if you do it yourself. And if you choose to do it yourself, it's just a thing where you rotate between 4 different trash bins, and based on the type of scrap and the color, you just rotate between them. Very simple mini game, but kind of enjoyable. And that is what the game is as a whole. I never really got into, I haven't tried Power Wash Simulator yet, but something like the House Renovator or House Flipper, I think is the one I'm more thinking of. I never quite got into those, but for some reason, this one, what little I played, I was having a good time. I was just enjoying destroying these various ships and then collecting the resources. And when you collect enough and you can't carry anymore, you got your truck and you can just throw the box in there. You don't even have to aim or anything. It just auto throws the box in. If the box visually bounces out of it, it doesn't matter. That didn't actually happen because the game is just like, no. The physics are wacky. Don't worry about it. The box is there. You're all good. and you just have this small little area. It's not really a looker, but if you want if you've played games of this nature and you're looking for something similar, I found this to be on the more enjoyable side compared to them. It works well with the gamepad because this is another Ultimate Games joint, and quite often their games don't always translate that well for this reason or that reason, but this is maybe from them the game I've enjoyed the most, and something I will actually go back to and just play here and there to relax, just get myself a nice ship and destroy the shit out of it. But that is Ship Graveyard Simulator 2. But that is it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. So, yeah, once again, I am Marcus Ness. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, some fancy Discord roles, a private Discord channel, random drops on the Discord here and there, and more depending on your tier. That is, again, patreon.com/PXS. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoy this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day and a lovely rest of your week. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time, go daddy. It's go time, go daddy.